Welcome everyone to our webinar today, Reconnecting Generations, Inspirational Ideas from Across Canada. I'm so pleased today to be joined by my colleagues from across Canada who are working on intergenerational programs. I'm working with my colleague from the Canadian Network for the Prevention of Elder Abuse, as well as the Eye2Eye in terms of hosting this webinar for you today. And we want to first begin with our land acknowledgement for the webinar today. We acknowledge that we gather on the traditional territory of a number of First Nations and acknowledge their stewardship of this land throughout the ages. We seek a new relationship with the original peoples of this land, one that is based in honor and deep respect. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. Everybody will be muted during the webinar, except for our speakers. The speakers will be present during the presentations, and when we do the fireside chat, everyone's images will be visible so we can have that sort of informal discussion. As I mentioned, we have our ASL interpreters with us. You can make your screen a little bit larger. There is a line between the PowerPoint and the images, so you can drag that across to make the speakers visible during the PowerPoint presentation of the session. Once the PowerPoint is finished, everyone will be on screen, so that shouldn't be much of an issue. You'll be able to see everyone clearly. If you have any other issues in terms of format, there is a little grid at the top of your screen on the right-hand corner that you can change the speaker view however you would like to make that for yourself. We would encourage you to post comments in the chat box. If you have a specific question during the webinar that you would like to pose to a speaker or just in general, please put that in the Q&A box, and we will monitor those and ask them at the end of the session once the speakers are done their presentation. We are recording the webinar, and it will be available on both the Elder Abuse Prevention Ontario's website and the Canadian Network's website as well. And at the end of this session today, we would appreciate your feedback. We have a survey that we just ask a few questions for you to give your feedback and suggestions for future webinars. So we would appreciate you taking a couple minutes and completing that for us. Just another mention about privacy and confidentiality. We do include this in all of our webinars. If you do have any personal circumstances or situations that you would like to address, we would encourage you to reach out to us after the webinar. We do respect your confidentiality and privacy. If there's something that you would like further assistance with, we would be more than happy to help you with that. So just if you have a situation you want some general comments, please post those. But if there's something that's more personal based, then we can help you offline because this is a public forum for people to that will be posted. So we do respect your privacy. Just want to give a little introduction about our organization if you haven't joined us prior webinars. Elder Abuse Prevention Ontario envisions a province where all seniors can live free from abuse and have a strong voice and feel respected. And we achieve this mission through raising awareness. We do a lot of education and outreach. We work in collaboration with many organizations, both regionally, provincially, and nationally, to assist seniors and also improve the coordination and response to elder abuse, and also advocate in terms of elder abuse prevention and the rights of older adults. We implement Ontario's strategy to combat elder abuse, and we've been doing so since 2003. So we do part of that strategy has three main pillars, which is public education and awareness. So we do a lot of campaigns to promote awareness, information sessions to seniors. As many of you know, June 1st is the beginning of Seniors Month, and June 15th is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. So we will be us, as well as many of the organizations probably here today and across Canada, will be recognizing that important day through many initiatives through public education and awareness. We do training for frontline staff on recognizing and giving them the skills to respond and knowing how to assist an older adult, if a client, if they need further assistance. And as I mentioned, we work with our community partners to build relationships to promote awareness, doing research. We participate in many research projects to gain better knowledge around how we can better support older adults and address the issue. We have a website. I encourage you to have a look at that. We've revamped that website just in the past 6 months, so you can have a look there to find out different resources and tools that we have available that you can download free of charge. And also to keep tabs on other webinars that are happening. We do many during the months throughout the year on different topics and issues. I'd now like to ask my colleague Benedict Cheflon to introduce her organization with the Canadian Network for the Prevention of Elder Abuse.
Thank you, Ryan. Before I introduce myself, just a quick heads up. Some people are asking for you to fix the pinning function so that they can pin the ASL translation. Right now they can't. So meanwhile, I will introduce myself. My name is Benedict Cheflon. I'm the executive director of an organization named CNPEA, the Canadian Network for the Prevention of Elder Abuse. We are a knowledge sharing network that is pan-Canadian in scope, and we work for both education, awareness, and also program and policy development that relates to preventing the abuse of older adults. And in that capacity, we are very supportive of the concept of intergenerational initiatives and intergenerational relationships as a significant tool to help not only break social isolation, but also build bridges again between age groups, which in itself is helps build resilient, healthy communities and stave off elder abuse and ageism. So I am very pleased to be here today and to have this group of pan-Canadian experts present to talk about this topic, because I think it is very important, and really looking forward to hearing more about what each of you are doing in your corner of the country. Ryan, back to you.
Thanks, Benedict. So as Benedict indicated, we are so excited to have this presentation today, just to sort of launch the beginnings of the International Day, which is on June 1st and a couple days away, just to give people some idea, awareness that this is actually happening. And there's so many initiatives that are going on and have been planned for many months to recognize this day. With our partners, as well as with students and youth across Canada. So the goal was started in 2010, and we do have a colleague who's going to give us a little bit more background on the Intergenerational Day. But first I wanted to introduce our speakers that we have that are joining us today. So we have a great panel of 6 different individuals who have joined us today to give their expertise in the area, many doing different programs and initiatives with youth of all different ages. So Betty Good, who's our moderator for today's session, is the school program coordinator and rural links with Link Ages in Alberta. And Betty is a 30-year educator and has experience with local and international careers that have prepared her to work both with seniors and youth. And she brings much passion in her building capacity with seniors and students and communities. And she loves the intergenerational relationships that she shares also with her 5 grandchildren. So we're so pleased that Betty is here to share her experiences. I know that they do great work at Link Ages and are well known across Canada in that program. We also are joined with Audrey Reynolds, who's the Community Engagement Coordinator at the Anglophone North School District in Bathurst, New Brunswick. And Audrey, for the past 17 years, has been a longtime employee with the school district. And she's has a passion to empower students with intergenerational activities. And she's a longtime member of the Bathurst Rotary Club, and is the committee chair and advocate for seniors in need. I know that Betty's involved in many different intergenerational projects across the province, so we look forward to her sharing her programs that she's been working with elementary school students and high school students as well. And we're pleased to have Jules Meyer, who's a project manager for GrandPals, which is based in Ontario. And Jules brings 15 years of experience and a track record of success leading organizational visions while cultivating effective stakeholder relationships. She's been working with the nonprofit sector for many years with organizations such as the Right to Play, Plan International Canada, and Save the Children Canada. And you can see also she's done work with Kids Help Phone, and also with the Center for Studies in Aging and Health. And recently started a consulting firm called FAB that supports nonprofits to improve their new opportunities and improve their performance, and explore new opportunities for their progress. So welcome, Jules. And lastly, we have Lois Ferris, who's an older adult from Alberta, and she is involved in a mutual mentoring program. And Lois found her source of joy and meaning in life early to help others become the people they were born to be. She began as a high school counselor and soon moved to career services for adults. She started a company called Life Transitions at the age of 92, and she still does a few lifestyle planning presentations and appointments. So I know that she's done previous webinars on this issue, so we're so pleased to have Lois with us today. And Dr. Sharon McCoubry, who's the president of the Lake County Art Gallery Society. She's also the coordinator of the community engagement for the Faculty of Education at the UBC Okanagan. So Sharon is an art educator, and she obtained her Bachelor of Education and Master's degree at the University of Victoria and her doctoral degree at UBC in art. She has worked in areas of research, including art education, public art, and she's been involved in international learning and early learning and Aboriginal education. And she has been involved in many different projects. So she's worked with I2I, Intergenerational Society, and is going to speak to us today a little bit more about that work that she's been doing. And we are pleased to have Leslie LaHaye. She is the Assistant Superintendent of Schools in the Peace River North from Fort St. John, British Columbia. She also works in the school system in the rural area in the northeast of British Columbia. And she's keenly interested in future learning. She believes in the potential for innovative practices that are designed by practitioners, working with our colleagues to better engage students to prepare them for the future. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Leslie to introduce the Intergenerational Day, just to give us a little bit of history on how Intergenerational Day became, how it evolved, and what's happening today to celebrate International Day.
Hi, everyone. On behalf of Sharon McKenzie, Executive Director of I2I Intergenerational Society, I'd like to thank the Elder Abuse Prevention Ontario organization for hosting this webinar and to welcome all participants. Sharon had planned to be here in person to participate on the panel of presenters, but unfortunately has been detained by a family emergency. So as a member of the board of directors for I2I, I have stepped in for her to help kick off this event with a brief history of I2I and to summarize how Intergenerational Day has come to be. The I2I Intergenerational Society of Canada, based out of British Columbia, was created in 2008 to assist Canadians in the building of bridges between generations. Founder Sharon McKenzie had worked for over 30 years connecting school-aged children and youth to different generations within their communities. Through this work, she contributed to 10 years of research on the Meadows School Project, an intergenerational immersion initiative that brought school-aged children into a care home to nurture positive relationships and collaborative learning between participants of all ages. Sharon was linked to the Canadian Network for the Prevention of Elder Abuse through Elizabeth Podnecki's. Back in 2008, after her work on developing a community toolkit for abuse awareness and prevention, Elizabeth invited Sharon to develop a similar resource specifically for teens. Sharon worked with 5 representative teen groups from across Canada to develop and field test this resource. Then in 2010, the first IG Day was launched, where the young people involved in Sharon's work had the opportunity to showcase their projects. June 1st seems an appropriate date for this celebration, as it highlights the ongoing work throughout the year by young people in the school system, just ahead of World Elder Abuse Awareness Day on June 15. Most importantly, it showcases how the development of positive intergenerational relationships can contribute to the prevention of elder abuse and loneliness. So IG Day is now celebrated annually in Canada on June 1st across 12 provinces and territories. Its 3 key purposes are to promote the awareness of intergenerational relationships, to acknowledge what is already happening to support these relationships, and to encourage individuals to step out and make an effort to participate wherever they can. Now the I2I website exists as a repository for information and resources in the field of intergenerational relationships. It includes specific examples of activities and resources appropriately for IG Day. Today's panel of presenters will speak in person to share more rich and exciting examples currently taking in place. So without further ado, I turn it back to Rianne to carry on. Thank you.
I think this is my cue. I'm not Rianne, I'm Betty. I'm from Calgary, Alberta. I'm with Linkages Society of Alberta. And did you know that the last week of April was our very first Global Intergenerational Week? It had, there's an organization called Generations Working Together in Scotland, and they had piloted a global IG week, I think 2 years ago, just with Scotland and UK. And so then after the first pilot, they did it again last year. And then for this year, they've invited a few other countries. They contacted us to be the lead for Canada. And we, being the very first time, we had a lot of things that happened, but mainly on virtually, and then we did quite a few things in Calgary. So hopefully next year, you will be more aware of it, because starting in a couple of weeks, we'll be starting planning for next year. So can you imagine intergenerational week around the world, and you get to be part of it next year? So we're going to talk about programs in IG Day. And Jules is going to start us off. Oh, I just want to mention something. I'm not a main speaker, but let me just tell you what's happening at Linkages for IG Day on June 1st. We have a lot of programs. And at junior high school, it's a Catholic high school, called us just before Lent, before Easter, and said they usually do a fundraising and during Lent, and they've chosen Linkages for their charity. And then they do a service project. And did I have any ideas for a service project? Of course I did. So they are planning a community, granted, because it's the first one since COVID, or since the restrictions have been lifted. They're doing an IG Day event at their school for their community, for their school community, as well as the seniors from the care center that we partner that school with. And that is happening Wednesday night, and we're just really, really excited. So that's our IG event in Calgary. So now I'm going to ask Jules. She's already been introduced. Jules, tell us about what you're doing.
Thanks, Betty. Hi, everyone. It's very nice to meet you all virtually. And thank you for having me to talk about GrandPals. So GrandPals is an intergenerational program. It is currently running in Ontario, primarily in the town of Orangeville. And GrandPals, the program, is hosted by an organization called the Center for Studies in Aging and Health, which is a department of Providence Care. And if you're not familiar with Providence Care, it's a public health care provider here in Ontario. So this program, it started back in 2010 by an educator named Mark Mayat, who incidentally won the Governor General's Award for developing GrandPals, along with a few of his colleagues. And while the program has evolved over the years since 2010, and as you can imagine, it has evolved significantly throughout the pandemic, the vision has remained the same. And our vision for GrandPals is to build a world of deeper intergenerational learning, connections, and storytelling. And what GrandPals does is it works with adults, typically ages 55 years and older, and works with and pairs them with a classroom of elementary school students. And together, the GrandPals and the elementary school students meet generally on a weekly basis and share stories based on various themes each week. And each week, as they explore these thematic stories, the students dive deeper into histories and origins and learning about the different lives of the people within their community, and in particular of their GrandPals. As you can imagine, throughout the pandemic, a lot has changed and a lot had to shift in order for this program to work. And so we've, over the past year, have developed a hybrid version of this program so that it can be offered in communities anywhere in Canada, and that it would reflect the requirements or the needs of each community. And so by doing so, we have two modes in which this program can run. One is that the GrandPals are able to video conference into a physical classroom and share stories and build connections that way. The students are divided into groups of usually 3 or 4, and each group hosts a different GrandPal each week. And throughout the duration of the program, there's these wonderful opportunities for the students to engage in dialogue and conversations with the GrandPals and learn from one another. The second mode of this, where it's safe and possible to do so, GrandPals and the students can actually meet in person. And if we go to the next slide, there's basically the GrandPals would be paired up with a group of, again, 3 to 4 students and share stories and learnings with one another throughout their time together each week. The thing that makes this program have a lot of intentionality behind it and create that space for people to form healthy relationships and form that bond and a connection with one another and build stronger communities is the fact that it is a project-based program. And on the next slide here, there's some really neat examples of what that looks like. And I'll share a little story about how this actually plays out in a community. So at the beginning of every program, when the GrandPals and the host teacher get together, they get together for a co-creation session. And that session is crucial for laying the groundwork of how the program is actually going to be implemented between the students and the GrandPals. And together they establish some of the logistics. So for instance, when are they going to meet? What day? What time? The location, which sessions will be online versus in person. And in some scenarios, it may be all in person, or in other cases, there may be a bit of a hybrid between the two. But together they establish what's going to work best for them and their needs. The other thing that they learn together is they discuss what the actual project is going to be. So throughout the program, the students are working on a project that reflects the learnings and the teachings that they're gaining from their conversations with the GrandPals. And this is really neat because it can take the form of so many different ways. So whether it's a drawing, a painting, poetry, a sketch, a play, a dance, a song, there are so many creative outlets that can take shape for that student to share back what that interaction has meant to them and the stories that really resonated with them. So I'll give you a little example here. All the images that you see on the screen are examples of work that grade 5 students have done. And on the left there, you'll see an image of Cecil. And this one's really neat because the grade 5 student that was working with or meeting with Cecil throughout the class time over the weekly periods, there was a story in particular that really resonated with that student that Cecil had shared. And so for her project, she decided to take a photograph, an image of Cecil, and put transparency paper over top of the image. And if you zoom in really, really closely, the lines that form the image aren't actually lines, they're actually sentences. And so that's a story that really resonated with that student that Cecil had shared that was a defining moment for who he became. And at the end of this program, it culminates in a wrap up or a celebratory event. And that celebration is an opportunity for students to share back their projects with their GrandPals. In a lot of the cases, they give this as a gift to their GrandPal. And it's a really nice memento to honor the experiences that they've shared together over these series of months. And it's also an opportunity at that celebration for the GrandPals to share back the experience that they had and their reflections that they have from meeting with the students week over week. So those are just a few examples. There's some really neat ones out there, though. I know that there's one happening tomorrow for the celebratory event, and it's actually happening at a conservation park. And the conservation park, because they wanted to, they really loved what was happening between the GrandPals and the students, that they're proposing to have a story tale trail. And so they're actually going to leverage those stories that the students are sharing, and that with the GrandPals' permission, obviously, share those stories and incorporate them into a nature trail. So as community members are walking through the nature trails, they can learn more about the people within their community. So there's some really neat ways of profiling and showcasing all the incredible people within the community. So if you go to the next slide, this is a very quick snapshot for folks who are interested in the logistics of how this actually comes to be in a community. basically we have 3 different actors that generally come together. It's the teachers, a community, like an age-friendly community center, or maybe it's a another community-based organization, and then adults who are 55 years and older who come together to implement the program. So they go through this process of the recruitment and matching. We ensure that safeguarding is at the core of what we do. So there is that vetting process to ensure that we have all the right folks at the table who can implement this program. We offer training so that both the teachers and the GrandPals are equipped and prepared to participate in a really safe and respectful way. And then, like I mentioned, there's that co-creation period where they establish what they want to achieve together and how they want it to work. And then that program runs and wraps up with that celebration. So if you go to the next slide there, very briefly there, as you can imagine, there are loads of benefits that come with this. One is that this program is adaptable and it's flexible, and it can meet is responsive to the community's requirements, which is really nice. Another one is that those connections between generations have this intentional space to build really authentic and meaningful connections amongst the generations. And then ultimately, we're aiming to diminish ageist attitudes, both of older generations and younger generations. And just to wrap up on the last slide there, this is a proposed timeline. So if folks are interested in adopting GrandPals and looking to implement in their communities, here's a rough timeline of when it could get up and running. And then, sorry, one last slide. Here are some ways that if you are interested in getting involved, there's different roles. You can become a GrandPal. You may know someone who wants to become a GrandPal, so you're welcome to share the program with them, host it in your community, or maybe you know a school who's interested in getting involved. That is all from me. So I will turn it back to Betty, and I'll include a link of my email in the form in case you want to get involved. Thanks for your time.
Wow, thanks, Jules. That was fascinating. So our next speaker up is Audrey, and she's going to talk about her high school program. So Audrey, we're excited to hear from you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody from Bathurst, New Brunswick. So my name is Audrey Ronalds, and I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator for Anglefell North School District. I've been in this school district for 31 years and 17 years in my new role. So first and foremost, I'm extremely, I did have a PowerPoint, I don't know where it is today, but I'm extremely proud of this. So this is our logo that my graphic arts students, 3 of them, designed at Bathurst High School. And I see that it's been rolled out nationally. I know you've all seen it by now. And the meaning behind it was very well developed. And it's displayed on our digital signs within Bathurst, with our mayor and council, with a lot of our not-for-profits. And I've got 500 postcards going out mostly this week and mostly June 1st, obviously, with our students as we go into the community celebrating. So some of the projects that we'll be having in our schools are obviously picnics with our seniors, along with many cards and visits to independent living facilities, as well as level 2 and 3 care facilities. Our Rotary Interact students will be delivering sunshine bags with me. I am the chair for that. So that'll be happening June 1st at noon. We're going by foot. And we've chosen our items very carefully. That's supported through our Spirit of Christmas committee. And I'm also very proud to say that the Interact students also did a global initiative for grandmothers of Lesotho, Africa. So I'm always very in awe that we do support grandmothers of Lesotho, Africa. So we made 80 dozen cookies on a Saturday. I have a lot of great respect for our Caltech teacher who has to stand on her feet all day. I have a greater respect for her and all the good work she does. And what else have we been doing? We have almost completed a 10 by 10 gazebo for our Veterans Villa that will house our veterans wheelchair accessible with our carpentry class at no cost to the veterans. and will be inclusive to the adjoining 105 seniors living independently next to them. And we're revamping our garden with our Superior Middle School students. Our intellectually disabled students at Bathurst High School will be making and delivering stained glass candle holders, I should say, with our buddy group to our seniors adjacent our high school. And our students in our Positive Learning Center, and that's probably very touching for me because they don't work in a traditional setting in high school, they're unable to be in school, but rather than us always reaching out to ask, what can we do to help you? It's what can they do to help the community? And we're noticing that they're growing in leaps and bounds, wanting to give back, which is really great. So their artwork will be framed, and we'll be delivering that to a care home within the community. Some of our most rural schools, and we have rural schools up here. I think we have snowbanks as well too. So we're still struggling with our snow up here. They'll be boarding buses, and they'll be singing and making sunshine bags and baking and delivering to our seniors in the community June 1st. And we're also I'm partnered with Eat Fresh Chaleur. It's the best thing that's ever happened in my year with them. During the pandemic, there was a need, and we saw, unfortunately, there's a lot of food insecurity in our region. And we were able to pack with our students and deliver to the doors of 180 plus seniors fresh produce. And that would involve fruit and vegetables. And we all know the cost of what that has, what's happened with that during the pandemic. And in my years as the engagement coordinator, we have welcomed seniors to our classrooms to share in our experiences. Recently, we engaged in a 97-year young senior from the Netherlands, and she's a war bride, and we are going to be implementing her story about her parents that harbored Jewish people during World War II, and all survived in a false wall in their bathroom. So that's being rolled out into our curriculum next year in our history class. No greater than to learn from the horse's mouth as opposed to a book. And we're gearing up with Project Prom. That happens regularly every year, where we share in our gowns and our suits with our VHS students to celebrate it at a senior's residence. We shoveled walkways. We've made meals consisting of chicken bouillon, homemade soup. We delivered with our Caltech class. And finally, I have to say, we're in our 17th year. This is my passion with the spirit of Christmas. It's something that we've adopted, and we go into the homes of 380 plus this year seniors, most struggling financially or through isolation, widows, widowers. And that would probably be about a $60,000 project. We were very happy to receive a $25,000 Horizon grant, compliments of the retired teachers who believes in our project fully. And I guess I can say what led me to this today and being with all of you and your hard acts to follow. I'm so impressed with Lois. I can't wait to hear what she has to say. Is that Sharon called me on a Friday night and she talked to me about the Healthy Seniors Pilot Project in New Brunswick. And our province has one of the oldest healthy seniors in our country. This is a $75 million 3-year agreement with the government of New Brunswick, the Department of Health and Social Development. And it's my hope that they recognize the impact of that our students play on the healthy aging seniors in my province. The IG plan is simply to break down the barriers of isolation and loneliness. And I'm sure, and I can guarantee that what we're doing does help and does guide us in that way. And we believe that bringing children and older adults together can improve their health in such a meaningful way. I love what I do. I have a huge passion to engage students and seniors in our community with the knowledge that is shared in so many imaginative ways, and we are very imaginative. We really have created the buzzword intergenerational. And last week, I can honestly say that when I saw what the superintendent rolled out with the logo that the students presented, he did use the buzzword intergenerational. I said, yes, I've got you. I got you by a hook. So it's lifelong learning. Isn't that what it's all about? And isn't that what we're all here for today? Thank you.
Audrey, thank you. You are just, you're inspirational. I can't believe all the projects and everything that you are involved in. I can sense your passion. And I've got the same passion, but I think you've been in it longer than me. So thanks so much. So now it's my privilege to introduce Lois. I had the honor of having her at an event that we had in Alberta. How inspirational. So Lois, I'm going to let you do the talking.
Well, thank you, Betty. And thanks, Jules and Audrey. I'll just make an observation that me at age 92 is, I guess, the sole representative of my generation, as far as I'm aware so far, although the audience of 100, I hope, will include other people of my generation, or maybe that's something that'll happen in the future. Because when I contemplate the number of us living past 65 and living for another 30 years, I just wonder what we would all be able to contribute to the country and community if stereotypes changed and we were allowed to contribute instead of playing golf and bridge. So that's my challenge really in the mutual mentoring, that somehow we'll have the participation of 4 generations in the world going forward, and it will make a tremendous difference. But now back to my notes, or I won't get into the 10 minutes here. But thank you very much for this opportunity. I guess at 92, you're just glad to be anywhere, but I'm glad to be with all of you who are wanting to make sure that we do have the opportunity to use our skills and talents in any way possible. We don't have enough role models at the moment. So we've heard about 2 school projects that would require quite a bit of planning and quite a bit of time to implement. And here's one that's for everyone and for all ages. And you could have your very own mutual mentoring group happening by this evening. It's something you could do immediate. It's immediate and it's doable. So I want, even though I want you to hear what I say, I want you to pay more attention to what you're thinking during the next 10 minutes, because that could make an important difference to you in terms of having more enjoyment in your future. And it could make a great difference to the community in terms of what you choose to do with your time and your talent. So the 2 things that I'd like to say as a preamble to the topic of mutual mentoring are, you know, this is such a timely topic because of the large number of baby boomers who are going to be around for the next 20 years. So think of the potential of the next 20 years if we just change things a bit. And the second thing is the longevity of that group of baby boomers, the fact that we have 20 or 30 years of more skill and talent to be used. So that's the reason why I think this is so valuable. And they're the most underutilized resource. And we would be a lot happier and healthier if we were fully engaged. So I would like to sort of suggest future projects on that engagement. But I've thought of one thing for sure that would make good use of our time. You know, the last 2 years of COVID we've all experienced 2 years of extreme trauma, really. The whole world as we knew it is gone, and the world is different, and we don't know how it's going to be. And to deal with that trauma, we don't have enough one-on-one counseling. So I think that's where mutual mentoring comes in. Everybody can be in a group where they have the support like a nuclear family. We don't live in nuclear families in small neighborhoods in Alberta or anywhere else in Canada anymore, but we can create that community for ourselves, a creative community that gives us support. So I think that's how we could deal with a whole generation of traumatized people. And we can't leave it just to the professionals. So there's one, but I think it would deserve a focus of attention to find all the ways that the knowledge and skill could be harvested for the benefit of everybody. And now I better get to the topic of mutual mentoring. I've got about 5 points that are all doable. And as I say, you can all have one happening by tonight. So I've been involved in these groups for about 40 years. In the 80s in Calgary, four of us got together and said, let's be a group and just support each other in our life goals. And we got together and we only had 3 meetings, and pretty soon 2 of them had quit full-time secure jobs and gone on a sabbatical for a year. And the other third one had registered at McGill University, and I'm the only one left working in Calgary. So that was the first group. And then since then, I've been involved in many, many, many groups who've come and gone. It's not that they're meant to be dynamic. They're not meant to be something that goes on and on forever and goes nowhere. They're meant to be something that exists for a purpose and doesn't exist if it's not accomplishing that purpose. You start them and stop them very easily. So I've been a part of many of them over the last 40 years. And the one that I'm a part of now actually includes 3 generations and and we had a visitor from a 13-year-old daughter. So we actually, in our last meeting, represented 4 generations in that group. There was her 13-year-old daughter, and then there was a 27-year-old, a 32-year-old, 2 60-ish, and me at 92. So that's the current group. And you just get together 2 or more people. That's why I say everyone can have one by tonight, because that's all it takes. And then you can add people and keep them open and dynamic. So, and the reason that that the generations is so important is not the age thing, but it's the diversity thing. You want a lot of diversity in the group because you all have your friends and they all, you know, support you in whatever you're doing. That's one thing, but they all maybe have a similar culture and background. So what we want is diversity. Oh, and in our group now comes from Cochrane and Calgary and Edmonton. 2 of them I haven't even met face to face yet. And so with the way the world works now with Zoom, you can have a group that's global. You don't have to ever meet face to face, and you can be that supportive. And I loved, I think it was Audrey's word, co-creation. Any 2 people that meet can kind of create whatever it is that works for them in terms of their goals and objectives, purpose and objectives. So you want diversity, and age is one diversity, but cultural backgrounds and career areas and religions and nationality and whatnot, all of those will add diversity to your group. So you have the two or more people, up to 6, I would say, and you meet 60 to 90 minutes for each time, whatever works for you. And you meet every week or every 2 weeks or every 3 or every month, whatever works for you. That's the secret of it. That you don't make the people fit the group. You make the group work towards the people's purpose and objective. And we use the circle model of shared leadership. So take turns hosting the meeting. And as far as the time's concerned, you would not necessarily have equal time at each meeting, but it's time according to need. And I did, because of the time constraints, I didn't invite any of my co-mentees on, but one of them did send a note, which I now won't have time to read either, but it exists for the purpose of any kind of support, because she was supported through a surgery, or it can be supported through achieving a purpose. So it's anything that's going to move that person's life into a more fulfilling forward motion. And so that's how each group develops. And the objective is probably the important thing, and they work that out together. And I use the word purpose more than goal, because a purpose can include many goals. For instance, when I think I met Stephen Covey's ideas in the 80s, and I formed a mission statement called, I'm going to be involved in people's growth and development, mine and other people's, for the rest of my life. And that mission statement has worked very well for 40 years, because you can have any number of goals under that. And my current goal at age 92 is end ageism. And it wasn't mentioned in my introduction, but I actually think it's quite relevant to this topic, that it's ageism that keeps us into a kind of a traditional role of growing old, and keeps us from using that 30 years in a way that we might choose to, if we knew that anything was possible. We didn't have to go by tradition. So
can I just interrupt?
Yeah.
We're finished the 10-minute mark, so I'll just give you a minute to wrap up.
Oh dear. Okay, well, I always have a conclusion so I can jump to the end. So it was to work around the purpose carefully so that you articulate it, what works for that particular group, and then to review it every 3 months, because you can end a group, people can leave, new people can come, whatever. And just know that you can begin today and then modify it every day into the future, so that it always will meet your needs and make your lives more fulfilling in some way. And now for the conclusion that I always have ready in case this happens, because I knew it was going to be hard to make 15 minutes into 10. But it's just what I've said. A group that will make you better at what you're doing and better at who you are, and will benefit you and other people. And you know, so often as a senior, people are doing things for us. And I want to say that what's more important is allowing us to do for others. That we love things done for us, don't stop, but we'd also love to use our skills and talents in ways that we want to use them when we want to use them. So that's a plea for a change of kind of attitude towards seniors. And I want to have all my contact information in the chat or wherever, because I think this is something that you just may want a word of encouragement along the way. And I would be so glad to support you in any way I can to create the kind of life you want for yourself in the future. So I think that's sort of a summary. Oh, and I had a few examples. You can join groups that are already going, like Solo Sagers, or the Wisdom Circles, or I heard of a group in Zimbabwe where you could have time on the bench with grandmother. So people who need time to process the trauma, and I gather that's the main cure, is the time to process and integrate the trauma so that you're free to feel again. You don't have to stay frozen, and then you can have your whole heart available for a life in the future. So from whether it's Zimbabwe or rural communities of Canada or whatever, I just encourage you that it starts today with whatever you choose to do with the ideas you've heard.
Thank you, Lois.
Thanks.
I think I want to be like you when I grow up. Thank you. That was very inspirational. I have a question for you. You said a mutual mentoring group has an end date, like it doesn't go into perpetuity. So what's the average length of time that a group exists?
You know, I think this one that I'm in now, we've been sort of evolving for about 8 months. But, you know, I think just reviewing it every 3 months is a good idea. And then people can split off and create another group, or people can join. And if, yeah, we're 5 people now. So I don't think you decide on an end, but it's when it's no longer functional. And of course, when everybody has goals that take them to England or McGill University or something, they're gone. Of course, that won't matter anymore, but it mattered 40 years ago. We sort of disbanded the group when everybody left Calgary. So I think just make sure that it's functioning, because sometimes we get into an organization and the organization keeps going and forgets its purpose.
I think that's a good point. And I love that it's mutual mentoring because we can learn from whatever generation we're with, right?
Oh, so much so. We need that. We need all the different perspectives on every situation, because if we all look at it through the same angle, we'll all see the same limited view of a solution.
Thanks, Lois. Lois, I think you better read the chat box because a lot of people are commenting and about what you're saying. So over to Jules, I have a question for you. Can you just talk a little bit about the benefits for both the kids and the older adults, the seniors that are involved in GrandPals?
Sure. So we're seeing a multitude of benefits for the young people, for the students who are involved, and also the GrandPals. And in particular, for the GrandPals, what we've seen is that there's a sense of community that's been strengthened. So both amongst their peers and then through different generations as well. And that in turn has also inspired at this level of curiosity and learning as well. So just anecdotally, in the past year when we've piloted the hybrid version of the program, it's been really cool to learn with the GrandPals on leveraging different technical skills and creating PowerPoints and sharing them. And so that's been really rewarding and really wonderful to see. Another one is the ageist attitudes as well. So both from the students and also the GrandPals who are participating, having these experiences of working together is helping to form these connections and demystify the other. And that's been really beautiful to see and be a part of as well. For the students, there's definitely that element of curiosity and learning and that demystification again, and that sense of purpose and the sense of being. And then just lastly, it's that sense of being able to give back. So just leaning off of what Lois had shared around, there's so many incredibly talented individuals who are over the age of 55 or like in their 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. And so that's been really cool to see that there's these opportunities where GrandPals are able to share all their talents with the community. And that's been one of the biggest benefits.
And I love that you said community because like Lois, like you said, people aren't growing up in community anymore. Yeah, where there's just so much diversity that we're kind of missing the community, and you're also addressing ageism. So Audrey, I'm curious, you have so many programs. Wow. What's your most popular one? I know you mentioned Spirit of Christmas, where you serve 380 plus seniors. But besides that, where you get the youth and the seniors together, what's the most popular one?
Well, there are two that come to mind. Obviously, Project Prom being one, because we had the seniors dress up as well. So that was really cool. And we take our show on the road. We go to different, usually it's level 2 care, and obviously level 2 now, because with the pandemic, we're still banging on doors to try to get in. We peer in windows though. But that's pretty cool and pretty popular. The other one I can think is we put quite an Acadian flair, though I do work for the English school district. We always bring our cultural activities, being that we're the only bilingual province, and we have an Acadian activity that we do each year, with the exception to obviously the last 2 years, but we'll be going back. And that's with clogging. You can Google that if you want to know what clogging is. But we had our students participate to learn about clogging. And then we had the seniors get up and clog dance with us. We had sugar pie and chicken bouillon. That was all supplied by our culinary tech class. So it's bringing the generations. Like, I'm just so in awe with Lois. I want her to live in New Brunswick with me so we can work together. I just don't take no for an answer of anything that the students want to do with our seniors. And when I was hired, I'm in my 31st year, but it was, I think, in my 18th year with community schools. It's okay, so we don't have the monies to supply any of these activities, but what do we have? We have our seniors. We have vibrant seniors, Lois, really vibrant seniors. And I had a call from a lady, Nim. How old is she? She was 101 last week. And she actually called me and then sent me an email. And she was an author of a book. Who would have known at the age of 99? She sends me an email, and then I connected her with journalism class. So it's always about making those connections, like our Dutch war bride. And I'm a huge advocate for veterans as well. My father was a D-Day veteran, proud to say. So I'm always looking at where we can help, but not where we can help, where they can help us as well. And you make that connection. I'm so proud of you, Lois. You'd be my kindred spirit if you lived in New Brunswick, you know that.
Keep on doing what you're doing.
Well, we are. We're full load on June 1st. I think I'm going to need another pair of sneakers by the end of that day.
Wow. Hey, Lois, when you retire, you can move in with Audrey. So I think our time is almost up, but I just want to have give each of you three one last opportunity, like one sentence about what does this do for you personally to work in this environment? Why do you do it? Jules, let's start with you.
One sentence, okay. This is quite the challenge. I think what drives me is that there's such a wealth of knowledge. It's a wealth of knowledge from every single generation, and the more opportunities we can provide for people to come together and share that knowledge, it can have quite the profound impact on a person's life and the trajectory it takes. So that's what's drawn me into intergenerational work.
Thank you. Audrey, how about you? Oh, I think you.
It would help if I unmute myself. One sentence, I agree with Jules. That's like a pretty hard act to follow there.
Well, you can have a run-on sentence.
A run-on sentence. Okay. I'm a non-educator here. So passion, huge. As I go into my senior years, I would hope that in my senior years that these passions continue, that we can bring together the sharing of knowledge for both. It's just incredible the amount of knowledge that seniors share that just goes overlooked each and every day. So passion, absolutely my passion. Thank you for having me.
And Lois.
I think I've always just been fascinated with who people we're all becoming. I'm fascinated with who people are becoming with my grandchildren and with other people when they're free to grow and develop. It's just amazing. And I hope I'll always enjoy the rewards of coaching other people.
I love that. Thank you for all three of you. And for me, because this is my full-time work, I love when I see youth and seniors together and I can step back. I love seeing the magic. We call it magic. And any of you, if you're involved in intergenerational programs where you are connecting older and younger, there will be magic. Okay, I'm sure some of you have questions. So Benedict, I'm going to hand it over to you to answer let's find out what their questions are.
Absolutely. So we're going to give people a few more minutes to type in their questions. You can do so in the Q&A by clicking on the little icon that says Q&A. But I guess I have a question of the most basic kind, which is, so there are a variety of programs, you are across the country. So let's say I'm someone who wants to get involved and get something started in my community. What are, the if not the golden rules, maybe the key first steps? What if there is nothing in place yet? What can someone do? Would you recommend a couple of specific resources, or just kind of organically, like Lois said, you can do it tonight? I would like to hear, what are your key advices for someone who wants to get started?
Audrey. Audrey, you have a lot of programs. What would you suggest?
What I feel works for us in the school district, K through 12, we don't have 13 here, is finding the passion of what a student is involved in or likes to do. That's number one with us. So if, we have a childcare class. So, okay, we have a childcare class and we have a lot of colorful students in that childcare class. So what types of topics, and it's always curriculum based, right? So your outcomes is, okay, so if it's art class, well, we're going to work with the Art Society. 90% of them are retired. If we have something, again, dealing with culinary tech class, well, we just might want to tap into those recipes from yesteryear and get our seniors involved in helping us. And there's Lo shaking her head. Yes, sir. You have the best recipes out there. It's about molding the passion with the student. There's that word again, passion, and the seniors. So many of them. We were struggling in a level 2 care home. I find that the gentleman folk, there's not a lot of activities that they were really interested in. So we came together, and our students in the trades decided that they were going to do a remote control night. That was a real seller for our gentlemen folks. So that was pretty cool. So we're always looking at things that are geared specific. It's not bingo. Trust me, it's never bingo. We like to do other things. And that's just my advice to you for education wise anyway.
Thank
In
you.
one of our community centers, we have a men's shed. If you guys know what men's shed are. And we also have programs where we work with the marginalized youth. And so last summer we had a 4-week program where once a week, once or twice a week, I can't remember, the students went and they were matched up with the men in the men's shed, and they did woodworking products. They were amazing. Yeah. And the men, they all benefited. Anybody else with that question? Lois or Jules? No.
I have one example, it's or more, but there's a magic of conversation and connection. And I think if you talk to people that you don't even have to know their name, you can meet them in the lineup at the grocery store or wherever, but you find someone who kind of shares your interest in something, and then you have a second conversation. The last thing I did before I left Calgary was meet with one man and one woman, and I don't even know that I knew their last names, but they shared an interest in helping older workers find work. So we had the idea to have options 45. We looked around and said, who has space? Where can we hold it? So we had it set up immediately because we weren't going to have to raise money and find people. So 3 people can have the imagination to bring the idea and the people and the space together, and it happens, and it's still happening there.
That's amazing.
I'm into things that happen quickly. I don't know whether I always thought I wasn't going to live forever, but I like things that happen quickly.
I think there's a lot of truth in what Lois is saying. It starts with talking with people and sharing that idea of what you want to what you want to achieve, or even just having that conversation of, hey, I want to connect with different generations. How can we do this? And it starts there, and finding that common passion and seeing how it grows together.
Yeah, I find it very fascinating. I really liked it, Lois, when you talked about your personal goal to end ageism, because that's a pretty tall order, and it's also very big on the list for CNPEA, for Elder Abuse Prevention Ontario. And when you talked about having 4 generations represented in the group that you were involved with, I thought that's even more interesting, because I often hear about intergenerational projects that involve very young children or teenagers, but it always seems to me like maybe there's a bit of a gap when it comes to the in-between ages. And how do you overcome that? Because I think one thing we've noticed from COVID is it really broke the communication line, and it broke a lot of things, but it also made ageism flare. Like, we heard some pretty terrible things being kind of swung back and forth at different generations. How do you bridge that again? How do you fix that and get every age group involved?
Well, it wasn't intentional because I didn't realize it until I saw Betty's little suggestion. Do you know an intergenerational problem or an intergenerational project? Because we didn't set out to be intergenerational. We set out to be a diversified group that would be maximum help in supporting and other people in growth and development. So you just talk to anybody of any age. But because I like people of all ages, I guess I happen to talk to those people. And almost everyone you talk to says, how can I belong? So then we invite them as a guest, and then they can go off and form their own. And I'm sorry we don't have any men in the group. A couple of them have expressed an interest and visited, and then I hope have gone off and created their own. I'm not sure. But even that diversity would be a help. But it wasn't totally deliberate. Just have an ear open and maybe an expectation, because I think we expect people to be segregated. So maybe we don't expect a 30-year-old to want to belong. So we have to be open-minded.
That's great. Thank you. Does anyone else have any additional answers to that question?
I'd like to encourage everybody on this call to just make a friend. A lot of my friends, I'm in my 70s, and Lois, for your information, I don't plan to retire. But I'm in my 70s, and I have friends in their 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s, and 20s. So and then my grandkids who are teenagers and younger. But my personal friends are all different age groups. And I don't even have a lot of friends who are in their 70s. So I would challenge you to find a friend who's older than you and who's younger than you.
I would agree, because in the people that live in the residence I live in, they don't have a lot of younger friends except family. So even that would make a tremendous difference to anyone's world.
Yeah.
And I see there are some suggestions in the chat about other ideas, such as walking groups, since everybody is out and trying to do outside things, and as well as a walking book club where you can chat about books while you hoof it around. I wanted to go back to Kelsey. Kelsey, if you are with us, because I believe you had some resources that you wanted to share and some information about getting in touch as well.
Yeah, for sure. My name is Kelsey Rusk. I'm a student from Fredericton, New Brunswick. I am a participant of the IGAP Intergenerational Action Plan research project that was facilitated by Sharon McKenzie of the Intergenerational Society. The research project was meant to encourage people to plan or participate in intergenerational programs. And I joined last June to help make social media content and spread awareness of all of the great work that many groups are doing. There are a lot of intergenerational activities happening across New Brunswick and Canada, and I can put a link to a master list in the chat. If you are planning an activity on June 1st and would like us to share it, I will put the email in the chat as well. And please tag us on Facebook and Twitter. I'm helping share things again this year. And you can also visit the intergenerational.ca website for resources to help you plan intergenerational activities. And yeah, that's everything for me. I'll put that in the chat.
Thank you very much, Kelsey. Sharon, I think we also wanted to have you speak a little bit about proclamations, because that's something that people can do. Tell us more about that.
Yes, exactly. Thank you very much. So I'm here speaking on behalf of Sharon McKenzie, and it's unfortunate that she's not able to share her energy and passion with you all, but I'm assuming many of you will have heard her in the past. She's an absolute champion for the concept of intergenerational work. So the whole idea of creating a declaration, a proclamation for Intergenerational Day on June 1st, it is in itself kind of a task, and I'm going to give you a little bit of the background about it, but also just kind of to enforce and emphasize the importance of that. So as was mentioned, the Eye to Eye Society was formed back to 2008, 2010. I actually worked with Sharon in formalizing research on her Coldstream Meadows seniors and school children's project, and then have been on that society ever since it was formed. So in the beginning, with the efforts to have municipalities declare an intergenerational day was the first effort. And so Sharon and some volunteers spent a great number of hours telephoning all of the capitals across the country and all of the major cities, and tried to convince them to make a declaration for Intergenerational Day. That wasn't as easy as we had hoped. And one of the interesting reasons is that that was around the time when a lot of cities were also declaring Pride Day, which led to some challenges. And so many cities then made the decision or the policy to not do declarations, to not proclaim certain days. So that was a bit of a shift then in energy, and instead the provinces ended up being the route to go with that. And so through a great deal of work in different provinces, some of which we've already heard about, we know that provinces have declared June 1st as Intergenerational Day. So Manitoba was the first through the work with Sue Crichton, who was involved with the Ministry of Health there. And that was declared in perpetuity. That was followed by Ontario, and that was achieved through a private members bill. And then New Brunswick was third, and that was achieved partly through the work that Sharon McKenzie and Jean have been doing in their project that's been ongoing for a number of years. Now, I was going to stop there and say those are the three provinces that have achieved this wonderful status of the declaration being in perpetuity, because there's such a value in it being something that's there always and not having to be reintroduced, redeclared. And so, however, just as of this morning, I was notified that Alberta has become the fourth province to declare International Day in perpetuity. And of course, that work has been ongoing. I was going to say that it's in progress and hopefully going to be achieved soon, being done by the work by Link Ages. So that's terrific. There are 4 provinces who have that status. Now, other provinces, British Columbia, Saskatchewan, Prince Edward Island, and Nova Scotia, do declare this as a day. It's just that it needs to be contacted and ensure that it's finalized on an annual basis so that it can always be declared. Nunavut does not have a declaration, but they do make a statement in their house every year in their language, and so that happens. Northwest Territories also has no declaration, but the city of Yellowknife has declared. So in all parts of Canada, there has been great progress in the provinces and territories creating that important proclamation. Now, more and more cities are going in that direction. And I think it's just kind of watching it happen elsewhere and moving along. And so I think the hope is that we can help that grow. The more cities that also have that proclamation in place, the greater the opportunity for some of the local community groups, libraries, and most certainly the schools to get involved, because when the city has that declaration, it provides a connection for their work to happen as well. So just to be able to emphasize the importance of a declaration, it is a very good way to get the word out. It is, usually that declaration is read in city council and it's broadcast and it's read, and then the rippling effect goes from there. It is also really important to give power to the people who are working in this area of intergenerational work, because it's formalized through a proclamation. It gives leverage to all of the effort of all of us that are working in this area. So to kind of reach, to either bounce off an existing proclamation or to somehow help your area ensure that it has a proclamation are both really important and worthwhile efforts in this. So thank you.
Thank you very much for this. So I've put your email address in the chat box as well, in case people have questions about proclamations and what they can do. I think you were quite clear, but if there is any further questions, I'm sure people will find you. We have also a message from Joette Lavoie, who is part of the I2I Intergenerational Society. She's been working with Sharon for over a year now, who wanted to let us know that she wrote a poem that's dedicated to older adults everywhere. So Joette, if you have the link, if you want to pop the link in your in the chat box, it would be wonderful. You mentioned it's on YouTube. I'm sure some people would like to check it out. And Betty, I wanted to just go back to you briefly. We have a few more minutes, because I know recently you were also involved with linkages with YCAN in Calgary, which was a group of older, I think, high school students. And I wonder if you had just a little bit of information about that, because I thought that was a really interesting project that took place. Oh, you're muted.
It was interesting, except I didn't really get involved. Kurt Robertson was the one who was hitting it up, and he met with high school students. They had to earn volunteer credits, and so he met with them on a regular basis, but because it was all virtual, there wasn't a lot that they could do. And so I actually joined one of their groups, and they just basically wanted to hear what linkages was about and how they could get involved and interact with more seniors. So I'm sorry, I can't give you more information.
That's all right. I was under the impression that you had connected with them, but it stayed with me, because I remember thinking how amazing it was that it was a group of youth through a group called YCAN at the YMCA, considering several social issues that they wanted to get involved with, and doing research to kind of learn about it, and then choosing they chose ageism and intergenerational connections as the topic of interest for them for this year, for that particular group, and then pursuing contact with linkages, and I believe with a center called the Kirby Center, to connect with older people there and develop a conversation about this. And I thought that was it was wonderful to hear that the initiative was coming from the youth, and that they identified, even at 15, 16, 17, however old they are, that ageism and intergenerational connections was a pressing topic that took precedence over other very important issues that they were presented with. So
it was good, and I was fascinated. Some of the students were only in grade 10.
Oh, wow.
They worked with this. We have a senior center called Kirby Senior Center. And then I think when I joined their Zoom call the one evening, they just basically interviewed me and found out what we do, in our programs. Yeah, but it was good. It was really, it's inspiring when you see young people just be so interested. Yeah.
That's great. So the list that Kelsey mentioned earlier, you can access the list of events taking place for June 1st this year. And I believe it also contains some events or some activities and programs that take place year round. So please do have a look and get in touch with Kelsey, at igday.june1st@gmail.com. The message is in the chat box and I will repost it here. We hope that you will consider taking part this year, or create something of your own in your own community. And right now on the screen you might see something called Future Us, because we wanted to bring that back as part of the conversation, CNPEA has launched 2 months ago this roadmap to elder abuse prevention, where we gathered we carried out consultations across the country to hear from people who do the work of prevention, to hear from government officials, from policymakers, from individuals, to hear about and kind of coalesce all this information about what's taking place across the country right now and how could we improve our collective impact on elder abuse prevention. And it's the core tenet of it is that we all have a role to play. That is a fact, that is a certainty, but it's easy to say if you don't really know what to do, it becomes a bit moot. So we sort of laid out a step-by-step, role-by-role map to help us work together towards better elder abuse prevention. And some of the key points that we highlight are the need to foster more age-friendly communities, to develop intergenerational relationships. And that's why it was really important for us to have this, this event today, because it is crucial. So if you want to have a look at Future Us and learn a bit more about how you can participate, the link is in the chat box, futureus.cnpea.ca. You can read it online, you can download it if you wish, and you will see it's kind of broken down in very simple, manageable steps that each of us can take at an individual or community level to contribute to the prevention of abuse and as well ageism, which is the root of that particular evil. So we do hope that you will have time to consult it. And we also hope to see you on June 15th. Rayan, do you want to do a bit of a presentation of what's happening next?
Sure, thanks, Benedict. We are hosting in collaboration again with CNPEA, as well as with CanAge and the Canadian Network and the British Columbia Community Response Organizations webinar to celebrate June 15th for World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. We have a panel of speakers that will be joining us across Canada who will speak on the rights of older adults. So we've been continuing our theme of rights don't get old, and the theme is around sparking social change, addressing issues like we've talked about today, considering ageism as one of those underlying issues. So we encourage you to join up. You can find information at wead.ca on the website to register. We hope that you'll join us. And Intergenerational Day was actually started in working with youth to combat things like ageism leading into WEAD. So there's a strong connection between the two significant days held throughout the year. And as Kelsey indicated, there's resources on the website for Eye to Eye that you can access and is available. So please, these are just some, but there's many, many other organizations that are highlighted on their website that you can access. And we'll be posting some of these on our website after the event that you can access further on if you're interested in finding out more information. And here's the contact information. This PowerPoint will be shared with individuals as well on the website along with the video. So if you didn't get in the contacts in the chat, this will be posted as well for people to connect with you to get more information about their programs. And there's contact information to both Benedict and myself if you want more information about any of their future webinars or questions, comments, please reach out to us on social media as well. We always, doing education and outreach on a regular basis. And just as I mentioned before, we do like to hear your feedback in terms of evaluation. So after the webinar is done, you'll see a pop-up. If you would like to take a couple of minutes to do that evaluation, we greatly appreciate it. I do want to thank all of our panelists and speakers who took the time out of their day to join us. We do appreciate you sharing your wealth of information and experience with us. It has been so rewarding and learning to see the passion and care that each and every one of you have, and continue to grow in that learning. And I think we need to get more people involved and I get inspired from listening to every one of you, and how we can get, I'm sort of reaching out to my own group and thinking, who else can we get involved in working in the intergenerational work? So I thank you all. I'm not sure if Benedict, if you have any final words, or Betty, before we end the session today.
Nothing to add other than a very big thank you to all the speakers and all the participants who showed up on a Monday for a webinar to get inspired.
Great. Thank you, everybody.